Well, I'll tell you, our next speaker is a graduate of the U.S. Air Force Academy and served 7 years on active duty working as a weapons controller. Flew target drones, commanded intercontinental ballistic missiles as a launch officer, and worked as an Air Force missile propulsion engineer on the Titan III program. From 1971 to 73, he worked for Martin Marietta Aerospace and Rockwell International on space shuttle design proposals. From 74 to 95, he worked for the Federal Aviation Administration as an aircraft structure certification engineer. And in 05, he published the book Faded Giant with co-author James Klotz, detailing his UFO incident while stationed at Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana in '67. And in 2013, he published Unidentified: The UFO Phenomenon. Please welcome Robert Salas.
So I'm going to talk about UAP, extreme secrecy, the escalating risk of nuclear war, and a lot of other things. I'll go over my evidence for the Echo and Oscar flight incidents, which I've spoken about again for 25 years. First spoke in August 1996. I gave an interview to the Great Falls Tribune, got front page. I'll review some other UFO and nuclear weapons incidents, the extreme secrecy around the entire UAP nuclear war, everybody's favorite subject, and the importance of disclosure. So first thing, I'll talk about the fact that 20 nuclear missiles, and these were Minuteman I ICBMs, were disabled by UFOs in 1967, March of '67. And I'll go over some of that evidence. This man is Colonel Walter Fiegel, now retired. In 1996, I was able to contact him. He was the first witness I contacted after I started going public. I guess I should talk about how it is I was able to go public, because after my incident, I was ordered never ever to speak about the incident I was involved in, and in fact had to sign a non-disclosure statement, which included the words Leavenworth Prison. I'm serious. So I didn't talk about this for about 27 years. 1994, I was at a bookstore in Seattle, Washington, and picked up a book called Above Top Secret by Timothy Good. And I happened to turn to page 301 of that book. And on that page was a very short paragraph stating something to the effect that UFOs shut down missiles at Malmstrom Air Force Base in 1967. And that's about the extent of it. But it was enough to get me pretty excited, because I thought the Air Force might have declassified the incident. So at the suggestion of my wife, I contacted an organization called MUFON, which I hadn't heard of before. And I finally got a hold of an outstanding investigator by the name of James Klotz, and asked Mr. Klotz to submit a FOIA request, Freedom of Information Act request, about this incident at Echo Flight, where 10 missiles were disabled for some unknown reason. And don't mention a word about UFOs, please, because I knew that would have killed the whole thing. So he did. And lo and behold, the Air Force writes back and says, this is classified. However, since it's been over 12 years, I think it was, we're going to declassify the incident and send you documents. At that point, when I started receiving those documents, I went public and said this was a UFO incident. So Basically, what this object or objects did is they sent a signal through 60 feet of earth and concrete and then penetrated very large, about 8-inch diameter cables, which were triply shielded against electromagnetic interference. They sent a signal to each of the missiles separately to a particular piece of equipment called the logic coupler. The logic coupler takes data from what we called an inertial platform, inertial guidance system that had gyros. After the missile is launched, this system would calculate the speed, acceleration, direction of the missile, and then calculate how whether it was on trajectory or not to hit the target. So all this object did was upset a stable platform for this inertial guidance system so that on launch the missile would not know where to go. That's all that happened. But this was pretty amazing that they were able to do this. In fact, the Air Force, in this, again, official document that we got, says these were externally generated signals, and that the generation of these two channels, these were the guidance and control system failure channels, the possibility of this is very remote, essentially saying it's impossible to do this due to the fact that all 10 couplers would have to fail in the flight within a few seconds of each other. So they couldn't figure out how this was possibly done. One of the documents I received from the Air Force, this was one of the more important ones because it shows the grave concern that the command structure of Strategic Air Command had about this incident. We lost 10 at Echo Flight, strategic alert within 10 seconds of each other. The fact that no apparent reason for the loss of 10 missiles can be readily identified is cause for grave concern to this headquarters. And then he went on, this is Commander SAC, Strategic Air Command. They sent this message to Boeing, who had the contract for the overall maintenance of the missiles, and asked them to do a very serious investigation.